It all started when my 5 sisters completely blocked my bank cards. Ultimately, the planned wedding fell through. By demanding it be cancelled directly through the university, I took a firm stance. They should just name this new false heir already, I said quite calmly. My phone was completely lost, and at that moment the entire shadow structure and the underbelly of this world were in complete chaos. There's a piercing pain everywhere, and countless people are sending each other news that their little prince has returned. In my previous life, I was a favorite and key figure in the entire corporation. But to escape the intrusive control of more than 10 sisters, I decided to return to my birth parents. But my mother and father turned out to be incredibly biased. All 5 sisters harbored a deep hatred for me from the very first day. Even after my tragic death, they did not stop and continued to appear on television, throwing mud and slander at my name. When the news of my death reached my 10 sisters, they arranged the most luxurious and lavish funeral for me. And then, on the very first night after my failed wedding, I razed the Lin family to the ground. I just left a pre-prepared gift for their new beloved son and silently left. The very next morning, all the news was full of headlines about the fact that the chairman of the board of the giant corporation Yao Ming was back in action. At the lavish banquet, my ex-fiancé Mu Kaiyan and that fake Lin Xiao were trying their best to push their way through the crowd to talk to me. However, I only glanced at them with an absolutely indifferent and cold face. In response to such complete disregard, Lin Xiao could not stand it and loudly began to shower me with abuse. How dare you fake your own death in front of your parents? And for what purpose to sneak into a closed business meeting of the Yao Ming group itself? Do you even realize where you are? You don't belong here. Follow me now and apologize to my parents, he yelled, but the next second the hall erupted in deafening applause. Who do you even think you are? Indignant voices rang out from the crowd. In this circle, you're trying to treat someone like a third-class citizen? This is the most respected young master of the Yao Ming group. Do you think this is your poor family? Are you dreaming of currying favor? Lady Mu is simply furious at your insolence. From the very beginning, Mrs. Mu had absolutely no liking for this Lin Xiao. This slippery, phony fellow constantly hung around her daughter, causing nothing but utter irritation. He had nothing to show for it, but tonight. For her, this move was the only way out of this incredibly difficult situation, one in which too many people were involved. And now everything was ruined by this worthless wretch. She simply clenched her teeth in anger. Apologize to Madame Sheng immediately, she barked, causing Lin Xiao to tremble with fear as if he were falling into an abyss. After all, only the most influential and respected people had gathered here. He was given a public flogging right in front of everyone. In less than half a day, he'd be the laughingstock of all high society. How could he ever raise his head after that? Lin Xiao continued to shake violently, experiencing pure animalistic terror. Another resounding slap followed, causing Lin Xiao to almost burst into tears right there on the spot. He stood before Lady Mu, her domineering presence completely overwhelming him, and he couldn't even defend himself. All he could do was look at Mu Kaiyan with pleading eyes. Mu Kaiyan's heart literally broke at the sight. But even her love couldn't help him. "Mom," he stuttered, but Mrs. Mu snapped back, "Don't you dare call me Mom." Madame Mu was ready to burn with shame and anger. That naive girl, Mu Kaiyan, didn't even understand the full extent of the danger. A man had managed to insult both Yao Ming's group and Madame Sheng personally. Wasn't that certain death? I merely uttered one calm word. The gazes of those around me were filled with a variety of emotions. It seemed that in this world, true strength is the only harsh truth. And what about feelings and a sincere heart? All that is just empty talk, my little treasure. So, have you felt the relief you've been waiting for? Cheng Shu asked with a smirk, looking at me. His words were filled with reproach, but his gaze revealed only icy calculation. He clearly intended to ruthlessly get rid of this man who had turned up at the wrong time. This ungrateful fellow had truly alarmed everyone. Among the guests were a dazzling beauty from the pharmaceutical giant Zhenhua and the boss himself, Liu Chengfeng of the Jiancheng Real Estate Company, people of such stature that the Lin family wouldn't even dare approach. And the Mu family with its vast wealth now stood as pale as a shadow. It was clear the situation had gone too far. Those who were currently lecturing Xiao were clearly not the kind to be offended. Lin Yang had never been particularly attractive, but none of us could ignore the pure and flawless Jin Mi. After catching his breath and trying to collect his thoughts, Lin Tiancheng followed the others with small steps. As he passed by, he clearly heard Madame Mu sternly scolding Lin Xiao. "You idiot, you crossed the path of a person you had no right to touch in this or your next 8 lives." "Mrs. Sheng, I swear this fool has absolutely nothing to do with our family. Mu Kaiyan, you agree with me, right?" Mrs. Mu addressed her daughter, her voice filled with incredible, almost humiliating submissiveness. All her pride and arrogance were crushed in just a few moments, and all because of one casual remark I made. At that very moment, Lin Tiancheng approached. Madame Mu only sighed heavily and resignedly. Her own son was left in charge of the entire family, and the Lin family would now have to clean up this mess on their own. Such a useless son, incapable of even showing up in public, was nothing compared to her previous son-in-law. At least he had been sincere and devoted, not like this slug. But then something unexpected happened. Madame Mu became visibly nervous again, seeing how stupid and confused Lin Tiancheng was acting. Lin Yang also frowned instantly, sensing something was wrong. "Lin Shuo, are you pretending to be dead again?" someone shouted, and the entire crowd literally froze, inhaling the cool air. This Lin family is simply unbelievably crazy. They're digging their own graves from which there'll be no escape. Liu Chengfeng merely chuckled softly at this spectacle. "Open your eyes and take a closer look. This is the brother of the corporation's CEO, Yao Ming. What connection could a man of such stature have with your insignificant clan?" A loud voice rang out. The silk scarf was already too close to my face at that moment. I casually twirled the silk scarf in my hands, measuring every movement of my wrist. What secret lies hidden behind this long silken cloth? I myself became curious to see if this man really did look so much like me. If not, then right now I face 2 mortal dangers. My sister would never have allowed herself to play this game with me so carefully. And then, as if confirming my thoughts, the ancient sacred tree groaned softly and appeared before us. Hearing this sound, Lin Tiancheng finally realized that it was not actually me standing in front of him. "They just look alike. Sorry, I made a mistake. My real son is dead," Lin Tiancheng muttered, knowing his own son's character all too well. After he returned from the village, he was always terribly cowardly, even though he worked his ass off. He could never in his life act so arrogant and domineering. Liu Qingfeng merely laughed contemptuously. "How dare you compare this gentleman to some dead man? You've completely lost your mind." And as soon as these words were spoken, a deathly silence fell over the entire area. All the fighters in black who were guarding me, having just won an unconditional victory, lined up around me. They closed the circle right in front of me, completely silent, like ghosts from the void. Lin Tiancheng's heart sank into his heels and began pounding wildly with terror. "Forgive us, my stupid son was completely confused. He never meant to anger you," he pleaded, finally grasping the gravity of the situation and finding himself under the crushing weight of my absolute power. In the end, they had no choice but to give in completely. "Sorry, I'm really not joking," Lin Xiao babbled, hastily apologizing. But I was disgusted and hurt by this hypocrisy for the 3rd time. After all, he had crossed me more than once before. It was under his orders that I was constantly bullied and traumatized. And now, when a man appeared before him, the spitting image of me, yet wielding undeniable influence, I could slap the facts in his face right now. "Please be generous, don't be so harsh with me," he begged, for he was only 18 years old at the time, just coming of age. Lin Xiao was completely at his wits' end. Madame Fang's heavy slaps frightened him so much that he began bowing convulsively in all directions. This served as an instant signal. The black-clad guards immediately approached and firmly grabbed Lin Xiao by the arms. "Oh, that hurts, let go," he screamed. His arm was wrenched brutally behind his back, the sound of bones cracking loudly. He began to thrash around in terror and pain, losing his composure. His knees buckled and he nearly collapsed to the floor. But the next second, my perfectly polished leather shoes stopped right in front of his face. Then a rough, staly grip clamped tightly around his chin, forcing him to raise his head. Lin Xiao looked up with difficulty and pointed a trembling finger at me. But in my eyes he saw only icy indifference and utterly innocent calm. "Apologize," I said dryly. "Who the hell are you to jump in front of me? Hasn't life taught you anything?" A dangerous glint flashed in my eyes. "I make the rules here, and if I decide that your family should go to hell..." Uncle Shen's tone was quiet, but it exuded a deadly chill. Everyone present froze upon hearing this. I didn't even need to engage in open conflict. Wasting time talking to a worthless person like Miss Shen would have been sheer ignorance. Lin Tiancheng flinched, trying to intercede, but he couldn't bring himself to take a step forward. Any careless move would have instantly subdued him. It's boring as hell. This cold guy suddenly remembered I'd been drinking wine. There wasn't a shred of mercy in my eyes, only icy detachment. This whole farce is making my head spin. I put the glass of wine on the table, turned around, and slowly walked in the opposite direction. Uncle Shen immediately loosened his grip and followed me. Sorry, kid, your clothes are getting dirty from all sorts of trash. Sister, maybe we should organize a new outfit for you. I'll send the best designer to you tomorrow, and we'll do whatever you want. I just chuckled slightly and shook my head. Not worth it. Meanwhile, Lin Tiancheng ran up to Lin Yan to help him. Seeing his confusion, he felt genuine pity. Third, are you okay? What a fool you are. You were genuinely scared when those two arrived and you ended up angering them. You just waded into the water without knowing how deep it was. Lin Tiancheng took some clean napkins from a passing waitress and quickly wiped Lin Yang's face with disinfectant solution. He then sighed heavily. After today's disgrace, I'm afraid our family business will be on the verge of collapse. Lin Yang watched the departing figures, his teeth clenched until they gnashed. He felt sick with impotence and a dull ache burned in his chest. These people are too arrogant. They treat others like cattle and simply trample us into the dirt. Lin Tiancheng cut him off sternly. Don't even think about it. Let's get out of here quickly before we get into more trouble. Zio himself is to blame for today's scandal. He's lost all sense of self. I clearly explained to him before we left what kind of trick this was, and he ignored it. Lin Yang clenched his fists tightly. Zio had indeed acted recklessly, but he was still too young and inexperienced. Oh, come on, look at the wine swaying in the glasses. There are only serious adults here, a cold voice said. Your brother is actually alive, and you're comparing a dead man to a powerful gentleman. Where's his status and where's yours? Go home and teach that boy a lesson before he drags you all down. The guests' gazes remained stern, and a deep discontent hung in the air. For them, meeting such a patron could have been an opportunity, but because of this idiot, everything had gone to hell. They were torn apart by anger at the fact that their visit here had been wasted. Wow, the Lin family has even made a name for itself here, whispered the crowd. Liu Chengfeng was also extremely furious with Madame Mu. Tell her not to drag stray cats and dogs around with her anymore, otherwise she'll be barred from the Chamber of Commerce. As the chamber's president, Liu Chengfeng felt personally insulted by this incident. President Liu, you misunderstood me. This is all that little brat's fault. Madame Mu, go and explain yourself to them immediately. The crowd fussed around them. Lin Yang stood with his shoulders slumped, feeling everything crumble because of one person. Why is it so hard for someone so close to me to show even basic concern? Is this retribution, my personal revenge for how badly they treated me in the past? Your brother was just dragged out into the street. Go check on him. If something happens to him, it'll be a disaster, his father urged. Lin Tiancheng was confused but quickly regained his composure. Lin Yang's pupils narrowed. He didn't dare utter another word, and in a blind rage, he rushed toward the exit. In the car, Lin Zio was writhing in pain, clutching his bruised knees. He sat in the backseat, covered in bruises and with broken arms. When Lin Yang found him, he was terrified out of his wits. Lin Tiancheng started the engine, listening to the incessant crying from behind. The father flushed with anger and, turning to Lin Zio, loudly told him everything that he thought. It's all your own fault. I kept telling you to be reasonable and careful. Are you crazy today? Mu Kaiyan brought you into this company, and you actually think you're their equal and let your tongue run wild. For the first time in his life, Lin Zio received such a harsh reprimand from his father. He could only swallow his tears silently, not daring to sob loudly. How different fates can be for the same person. Don't delude yourself. You're nothing to Miss Sheng, and next time it won't end with a simple beating, Lin Tiancheng snapped, barely containing his raging headache. Lin Yang tried to defend his brother, but Lin Tiancheng's harsh words immediately cut off his attempt. Third, you'll see it all for yourself tomorrow. Everyone will find out about this scandal. Our business will simply be torn to pieces. Lin Tiancheng was beside himself with rage, realizing that the family business would suffer a devastating blow. Lin Yang was well aware of the gravity of the situation. The Lin family was struggling to regain control of its assets, and if the company went under, it wouldn't be Lin Zio alone who would be to blame. Lin Tiancheng, Chen Ying, don't tell anyone at home what happened today, his father ordered sternly. Especially the fact that the corporation's CEO, Yao Ming, is the spitting image of Lin Xiu. Your mother and second sister are already pining for him. What if they find out? It would be a real disaster for them. Lin Tiancheng smiled bitterly. This makes me feel sick and absurd. Lin Zio, cradling his broken arm, whispered faintly, "I get it, Dad, I get it." Meanwhile, in the banquet hall, hundreds of influential businessmen continued to smile and chat casually. I'm sitting quietly by the window with Uncle Sheng at my side. There are plenty of high-status and talented women around, but not one of them dares take a step in my direction. My sister holds herself like a powerful goddess, before whom both men and women tremble equally. Uncle Sheng says with barely concealed irritation. "So, what do you think? Are you happy with how the Lin family disgraced themselves today? Were you able to vent at least some of your anger?" Taking out my anger, I asked them bluntly. "This is just the most humble beginning. Compared to the hell they put me through, this little lesson is nothing." I maintain an icy indifference. After all, I deliberately staged my own death so they would bite their elbows in regret. It's funny, but Lin Ryuhun actually thought I was naive and kind. I once saved them from ruin, and now I send them daily reminders so they can drown in their regrets. And my revenge is only gaining momentum. I want them to experience the same hopeless despair I once felt. I still remember the feeling of being cornered like a helpless mouse. But I won't give in. I want to make them ask themselves why they did this to me. They will have to endure many more of my sophisticated tricks. Uncle Cheng stroked my head affectionately. The way I faked my own death and left them tormented by guilt struck Lin Shuang and Uncle Sheng as a rather subtle and amusing form of revenge. Playing dead to make your own family cry with regret is a brilliant move. These people have long since lost any conscience or humanity, so where will they find it now? They just think, "I hurt myself, what a fool I am." It would be so much easier to simply crush these little ants. After all, they were nothing but a bunch of living corpses to begin with. By the way, stop calling me Xiaobo in public. It sounds absolutely terrible, I added sternly. "Then what should I call you?" he asked with a grin. "If you call me Shuo in public, we'll be found out quickly. You can only call me that in private." Uncle Sheng, aren't you listening to me at all? You and your fiancée Lin just don't want anyone to recognize you, right? That's the real reason, he grinned knowingly. But all this small talk made me feel a little awkward. In any case, calling me Zaya Abao was a bit much. I'm no longer a helpless child from an orphanage. However, Uncle Sheng simply ignored my protest. A satisfied smile spread across his face, and he made it clear he would continue to call me whatever he saw fit. In my heart, you will always be that silent orphan from the orphanage who couldn't even stand up for himself. You always need someone to protect you, otherwise you'll continue to be traumatized, he said. I just looked at him with mild skepticism. Noticing my gaze, Uncle Shen immediately deftly changed the topic of conversation. By the way, I've already completely sorted out the issues with your new educational institution, even though you were showing rare stubbornness. I'm far from stupid. Why give away my allotted quota to other people? I didn't intend to step on the same rake twice. But at the same time, I didn't want their hopes to be dashed prematurely. Doesn't Lin Zio love to steal my things? Well, let him see for himself right on the day classes start. How much more of other people's stuff had he managed to steal? By then, a decent crowd had already gathered. Uncle Sheng fell silent for a moment. Feng Cheng, your men have arrived again, he said. The president had proven himself a true man, and his sincere respect for me was clear in his voice. After all, he was his brother and therefore, by definition, the best in the world. But then he noticed Mu Kaiyan slowly approaching us. At that very moment, his gaze became incredibly icy and sharp. It seemed someone had truly decided they'd lived on this earth too long. Mu Kaiyan stood a little apart from the main crowd, keeping her eyes on me. This guy looked like her recently deceased fiancé, but he carried himself completely differently, boldly, arrogantly, and with his head held high. Mu Kaiyan clenched her fists tightly and took a few steps forward, as if guided by an invisible ghost. Her mind was perfectly aware of the folly of her actions, but her emotions completely overwhelmed her. She peered at my features again, trying to discern Lin Shu in them. A belated and bitter pity raged within her. What suffering it had been. If only she could turn back time, she would never have allowed Lin Shu, that harmless boy, to endure such hellish pain and languish in despair until the very end. Uncle Sheng slowly sat down on the stool, deliberately making room for Mu Kaiyan. I slowly raised my eyes, staring openly at Mu Kaiyan, causing her to momentarily catch her breath in excitement. Hello, she sang with a slight embarrassment and timidity in her voice. Mu Kaiyan was desperately looking for any excuse to get to know me better. However, a person like me already had a powerful family behind her. Catching Uncle Sheng's heavy gaze, she was completely at a loss. Kyan knew that if she showed even the slightest bit of impulsiveness, the guards would immediately drag her away along with the others. In the future, if the opportunity arises, I would really love to work with you. You're so young, but you've already achieved such impressive success. It's truly admirable, she said. To her praises, I said briefly and dryly, perhaps. Kyan visibly hesitated. She looked at me again, recalling past grievances and only now realizing how important it is to cherish what is already irrevocably lost. Looking at me, she heard an inner voice that kept repeating. If she had paid a little more attention to Shou at the time or treated him more gently, everything could have been different. Of course, since you're the Mu family's second lady, we'll probably have plenty of common ground in the future. Thank you, I added politely but distantly. Along with Kyan, her close friend and the second son of the Lin family were also there. My social media profile was filled with photos from my trips abroad. At first glance, it seemed like a wealthy young man accustomed to living the high life. Kyan, after a quick look at this unfamiliar WeChat account, felt nothing but deep disappointment. It was definitely not Lin Shu. She then opened Lin Shu's old profile. Only his final correspondence remained, in which he agreed to the divorce at the very last moment. Only a few modest photographs remain on Lin Shu's page. This young man once strived only forward, but to our great sorrow, he is no longer alive. In the midst of this awkward scene, Xiao Ru approached her daughter to drag her away. She firmly grabbed Kyan's hand and pulled her out of the crowd, hissing, "Are you completely crazy?" Xiao Ru was beside herself with irritation. At this point, Liu Qingfeng noticed that Kyan was trying to get closer again, just like Mola. I know you can't get Lin Shu out of your head, but who was this Lin Shu? Who was he compared to these people? Her mother scolded. Xiao Ru dropped her hands in helplessness. I've completely lost track of you. When Lin Shu was alive and around, you only ever revolved around Lin Xiao. Now that Lin Shu is dead, what are you even thinking about? Kyan looked at her mother with tears in her eyes. Mom, but he looks so much like Shu. When I look at him, I feel like Shu is still alive and is right next to me. Xiao Ru only sighed heavily. Sooner or later, you will have to come to terms with it and let him go. The Chamber of Commerce reception, hosted by Yao Ming Corporation, was a resounding success. Even after it concluded, many guests continued to vigorously discuss the charismatic CEO and his influential older sister. Without a doubt, overnight I've become a rising star in the A-list. After today's reception, the A-style business community is buzzing with talk of the emergence of yet another extremely dangerous and capable player. Upon returning home, these people began actively sharing details of the incident with the Yao Ming group, including discussions about whether Bu Yude should ease the pressure on the aggrieved Lin family and reduce the amount of compensation awarded by Uncle Sheng. The next morning, when Qin Lion and his son sat down to breakfast, Bu Yude, noticing his boyfriend's exhausted and disheveled appearance, became seriously worried. Xiao, what's wrong with you? Didn't you go to the mall last night? When did you get home? And why do you look so awful? Were you in some kind of accident? He peppered him with questions. Lin Xiao was about to open his mouth and tell everyone, but Lin Tiancheng immediately interrupted him by taking a step forward. Xiao just stumbled awkwardly and fell hard last night. Qin Lion gasped, "Oh, how careless you are. You should watch your step more carefully and take care of yourself." Lin Xiao felt deeply offended. He simply nodded silently, without saying another word. Qin Lion began asking with great interest about the recent business meeting. Unfortunately, Lin Xiao couldn't recall anything about that evening except the brutal beatings and the humiliation he'd endured, not a single bright spot. He had no desire to revisit those memories. "Mom, please, let's not talk about this," he asked quietly. Seeing Lin Xiao's behavior, Qin Lion's mood immediately soured. Okay, since you react like that, Mom won't ask about anything else." Lin Tiancheng frowned at Lin Xiao. The doubts in his heart grew stronger. This eldest son, he had previously thought the boy could handle everything and do everything correctly, but now it seemed he was completely incapable of anything. At the same time, the other young man made a completely different impression. Lin Tiancheng had heard that he had grown up without parents and was raised only by his sister, yet he moved freely and effortlessly among the leading businessmen. Elegant, generous, and self-assured, if only his own son were as capable, a true successor and a reliable support. Lin Tiancheng sighed in frustration and put down his chopsticks with a heavy hand. "Why are you sitting there so gloomy? Who even asked you to stage this farce yesterday?" he asked sternly. Lin Zio was consumed with shame and didn't even dare look at his father. He felt ashamed in front of his father because of how noble, reserved, and generous that other guy, Lin Xiang, looked in comparison to him. "Don't be so upset, it's just a simple fall. It was just a freak accident, no need to get upset," Qin Lion tried to defuse the situation. Lin Tiancheng chuckled slightly. "By the way, doesn't school start the day after tomorrow? I have some great news. I was able to arrange for him to transfer to a prestigious, large school." Lin Zio's eyes instantly lit up with joy. "So, I'll be going to the same school as my sister." Qin Lion only shook her head helplessly. "Just look how happy he is. Your sister is now working as a doctor and doing an internship as a teacher. She's simply catastrophically short of free time. You're just a freshman, no need to hang around your sister every day at university. It won't affect her reputation anyway," I snapped. Lin Zio was in high spirits. "At that moment, everyone around me must have been envious. How I envy you, you have such a strong and beautiful sister." Lin Xiangyu just shook her head. "Okay, I'll take you to buy some new clothes later." "Thank you, sister." Lin Zio nodded happily and nonstop. Lin Ryuan sat without touching her food. "If you're all so good and kind, then why are you so happy? Shuishu died just a couple of days ago. Was his life really worthless to you?" Lin Ryuan felt her heart freeze at their unreliability and indifference. Zio, she whispered, the name echoing within her like a shadow of Shuishu. "You're too frank in your feigned happiness." Lin Ryuan looked at everyone with utmost seriousness. Looking at Lin Zio's happy smile, she thought, "This girl continues to live as if nothing happened, enjoying her student life. Was that kindness she showed before genuine? I'm afraid it's all just a sham." Qin Lion was completely at a loss. Turning to her fifth daughter, she asked, "Lao Wu, what are you even talking about? Are you really going to argue in public? What are you doing?" She raised her voice. Lin Xiangyu also expressed her displeasure. "Wu Mei, it's time you faced the truth and stopped being so selfish. Lin Shu's death has nothing to do with Lin Zio. Why are you trying to deprive him of basic happiness?" Lin Ryuan merely sighed deeply. It wasn't that Lin Zio didn't have the right to be happy, she'd simply changed too drastically. Hadn't everyone else noticed? Lin Ryuan looked at Lin Zio intently, distrustfully. "You understand everything perfectly well deep down," she said. Lin Zio's heart began to beat wildly at these words. He bit his lip hard, tears welling up in his eyes. If this had happened earlier, Lin Ryuan would have died of grief and pity for him. But now 2 more burning doubts had settled in her soul. "Okay, Lin Zio, don't be so cold-blooded and selfish," she thought. Previously, Lin Ryuan sincerely believed that her brother would always protect her. There was Lin Shu, literally mired in filth and humiliation, and there was Lin Zio, a man with a completely different, prosperous face. Previously, she had considered Lin Zio merely a pitiful youth, wronged by fate. But now she wondered, had Lin Zio done anything worthwhile? After all they knew about him was nothing but beautiful words on his part. "Wu Jai, forgive me," Lin Zio said, rising from her seat. "I know this is all my fault. I was the one who insisted on going for a walk to the reservoir. If it hadn't been for my stupid idea, Lin Zio wouldn't have gotten into trouble. Every night I'm tormented by terrible nightmares. In my dreams, I constantly confess to Lin Zio and repeat that it would be better if I were the one who died in his place," she sobbed. Lin Zio added with the most sincere expression, "Please don't misunderstand me. Lin Zio's death outrages and hurts me more than anyone else." Lin Xiangyu couldn't bear it any longer. A flash of righteous anger crossed her usually kind face. "Enough, Lao Wu, you feel guilty about Lin Zio, but you have no right to shift the blame for your mistakes and blame everything on Lin Zio. A person may admit his own guilt, but this does not mean that everyone else around him is completely innocent. He might never forgive himself, but he couldn't bear to see those around him continue to live peacefully without the slightest twinge of conscience." Lin Ryuan rose, walked out of the house, and headed straight for the center of town. It was mid-afternoon. He sat down in a small, cozy cafe near the entrance and silently watched the fall of the autumn rain. Clutching his phone in a numb hand, he recalled how many messages he'd sent Lin Shu last night. He was only worried about one thing, that he'd never see Lin Shu's sincere remorse. "Hello, make me a cup of coffee without sugar," a clear, cold male voice said nearby. Lin Ryuan was sitting on the soft sofa by the window. Hearing that familiar timbre, he jumped and immediately turned to look at the source. Our gaze fell upon a young man in a light, soft shirt standing at the counter and paying the bill. An elegant watch gleamed on his wrist. He remembered how, not long ago, he'd wanted to buy Lin Xiao exactly the same watch for 100,000 yuan. The dark glint in Lin Ruo's eyes instantly faded. This guy's voice really was insanely similar to Lin Xiao's, but Lin Xiao would never be able to afford such a luxurious watch. The next second, Lin Ruo saw the man turn around, his breathing quickening. A moment later, he abruptly rose from the sofa and took 3 quick steps forward. Yes, it was Lin Xiao, and he was about to run towards him. He simply wanted to check, was there still life within him? Was he breathing? Was this a living person of flesh and blood, or just another one of his own painful illusions? At that moment, Lin Xiao stood up. A broad-shouldered bodyguard in a black suit abruptly blocked Lin Ruo's path and pushed him away. "Who are you? Stay away from our young master." "I'm his personal bodyguard," he added sternly, immediately becoming wary at the sight of this strange woman. I merely raised my eyebrows slightly, looking at Lin Ruo with a distant and arrogant expression. I was genuinely surprised at why he was acting so rude and insolent, and then suddenly chuckled. "You came here with Lin Xiao. Do you really love this Lin Xiao that much?" I asked, but I didn't find it funny at all. "Don't worry," I said to the guards. "He just made a mistake." "Young master, there are plenty of ill-wishers outside our mansion. Master personally ordered me to protect you without hesitation." And Bing didn't even think of retreating, continuing to steadfastly shield me with his back. I only sighed helplessly. "Excuse him, our house guards are rather cold and don't always obey me impeccably. You're being too frivolous." "Anyway, I've said everything," I said, and calmly headed to my table by the window. Lin Ruo turned around abruptly and looked at me in shock. "Everything is absolutely the same." "Lin Shu," Lin Ruo rushed after me like a lost soul. "I know I was terrible and did bad things before. You won't be able to forgive me, and I understand why you pretend not to recognize me. Forgive me, I beg you to give me at least one chance. I will truly change." Lin Ruo had always been a proud and arrogant girl, but now her tone sounded incredibly humble and pitiful. For her, the mere sight of me alive was enough, despite all her past flaws. "You are incredibly beautiful, and so modest. What a stupid age it was then," she whispered. "Who in their right mind would go back to the past and eat a wolf's head again? Just look at how cold this little brother is. No amount of backslapping will help here. All that's left is to open your mouth and beg for forgiveness. And who doesn't know that? There's already been too much controversy surrounding this whole story." I was frankly bored. At that moment, the waiter carefully served me fresh coffee. "Sir, I'm sorry, I got a little nervous while bringing your coffee," the waiter stammered. Lin Ruo watched in despair as I completely ignored her presence. "Lin Shu, I beg you, even if you can't forgive me, at least don't be so cold to me. Can you at least say a few words to this lady?" she begged. I took a small sip of coffee. A pleasant but lingering bitterness lingered on my tongue. Looking at it, I sensed only the slightest hint of irony. "I already told you you've got the wrong person. I don't know you at all. What should I talk to you about?" I replied coldly. "No, you're just deliberately pretending not to recognize me," she exclaimed. Lin Ruo, her eyes filled with deep sadness, quietly said, "You used to care for me more than anyone, and now you pretend we're strangers. You're right. Our Lin family is to blame for this. You've suffered too much injustice in our home," and she lowered her head guiltily. "You're doing well outside our home, aren't you? You're probably much happier here than you are with us," she said with unusual politeness and gentleness. The guards pulled Lin Ruo away, and I thought, how dare you bother our young master so brazenly? Get out of here. I just saw Lin Ruo being escorted out of the cafe through the window, but he still wouldn't let me out of his sight. He wanted to go inside, but Nzai blocked his way and wouldn't let him get close. In the end, he could only stand helplessly behind the glass. He literally cried in the street. His handsome face betrayed deep remorse and regret, and the movement of his lips made it easy to discern what he was trying to scream. He kept repeating only 3 words, "Please forgive me." I just smiled at this picture. "Belated love is worth absolutely nothing, my dear sir." "Are we going home?" Anya asked. "The rest of the gentlemen are arriving from the capital this evening, so we'd better get back early," I replied, carefully placing my coffee cup on the table. I really hadn't seen my brothers and sisters for a long time. I felt both joy and a little nervous. They must have left long ago. I was even a little afraid to talk to them. And also emerged from the shadows. Of course, I remembered well how fearsome and authoritative these masters were. I'd spent over 10 years in such circles, going through thick and thin with the renowned Yuan Yang. Could there really be any ordinary people left among us? All these masters doted on their young master. I was sure that they wouldn't be angry with me, but I still didn't rush to jump to conclusions. Before I was adopted and taken to a remote village, I lived with these very brothers and sisters. But their personalities were far from angelic, one might even say downright creepy. I sighed heavily at the memory. In fact, there were times when I couldn't take it anymore, fell into a real hysteria, exploded, and simply walked away. But he always stayed by my side and supported me. When I left the building, there was still someone on duty outside. This was another rich daddy's boy, second generation, who came to study and even hired a personal bodyguard. Well, that's just like him. Rich people are always terrified of death, but on the other hand, this only proves how much his family cares for him. Some people are born right in Rome, evoking only the silent envy of others. The door of the luxury car slammed shut, and I sank leisurely into the backseat. Lin Ryuhun immediately rushed after the departing car. But her path was immediately blocked. "Take even half a step more and I'll sweep you away," and Ning snapped. It was powerful and very impressive. "Our young master's status is incredibly high, so don't go looking for trouble," he added. Lin Ryuhun looked at me despairingly through the tinted glass. He had a very handsome and attractive face, and his entire demeanor radiated nobility and restrained kindness. "Lin Shu, I don't know what hell you've been through, but I will make it right and atone for all the pain you've suffered," she whispered. I pulled a business card out of my bag, and through the slightly open window, he calmly threw her out. After that, I moved to the front passenger seat, and the driver immediately hit the gas. "Lin Shu," she shouted after him. Lin Ryuhun picked up the business card, watched the car drive away, and sank helplessly to the side of the road, writhing in dull pain and clutching the paper in her hands. It read, "Yaoming Group CEO Yinong Ian." No, Lin Ryuhun refused to believe it. He was absolutely certain it was me standing in front of him. After all, he wasn't blind, and his brother couldn't have been so mistaken. He frantically pulled out his phone. Lin Ryuhun clutched his mobile phone with trembling fingers and tried to fight off the overwhelming depression, but the phone's screen had long since gone dark. He carefully put the business card into his inner pocket, right next to his heart, afraid of accidentally losing it on the way to the temple. A candle burned in the church, and the smoke slowly dissipated into the silence. Only the dull ringing of the bell periodically drifted off into the darkness. Dressed in a white, stained linen robe, Lin Lu knelt before the bodhisattva's face as the chanting of monks reciting sutras echoed around her. More than 10 monks chanted a mantra continuously. A label with its name hung on the ritual bell. Lin Lu stood up, bowed deeply, and gazed at the majestic Buddha statue in the hall. She wept, begging Buddha to grant her this bell. Lin Lu had already spent 7 whole days in the temple, praying that her prayers would reach the realm of souls. She had heard that if there is no body, then the deceased will also finally leave this world. Dying is easy, but finishing the sutra is much more difficult. Lin Lu finally rose and left the hall, wiping away tears. Qin Lion stood under a spreading tree and, hearing the rapid ringing of bells, frowned deeply with worry. "What's wrong with you? You've been gone for so long, you haven't answered my calls or messages at all. I honestly thought something terrible had happened to you. Lin Zio's leaving for school in a couple of days. You should be home and supporting your brother. Things are tough for everyone right now, and you're just trying to escape. Do you think this will do any good?" But it was as if a long-standing curse had been lifted from Lin Lu. "Enough! You're being incredibly unfair to Lin Shuo. You're worse than all of us. You should stay here and atone for your sins to Lin Shuo day and night," she cried. Qin Lion could only think that Lin Lu had completely lost her mind. In reality, Lin Lu was a reckless racer accustomed to taking risks, but this time she lost miserably. "You should have gotten a proper education first instead of going crazy. You can't bring Lin Shuo back to life, so why act like a lunatic?" Qin Lion protested. However, Lin Lu remained cold and adamant. "Last month I lost the race and my rivals wanted to take my life. Back then it was Lin Shuo who saved me. And this time the water in the reservoir was freezing and he saved me for the second time, sacrificing himself. For Lin Lu, Lin Shuo's deed was far more valuable than any high position. And not only 7 days of reading sutras, I'm obligated to stay here for at least 3 years, atoning for my debt," she edited. It was hard and painful for Qin Lion to watch what Lin Lu had become. She was so young, but now she was completely immersed in religion and sought salvation in the temple, feeling utterly helpless. "Fine, forget it," he sighed. Calm down and stop torturing yourself with guilt. You can't do anything for Lin Shuo anyway. Apparently this is his fate, he's just unlucky, Qin Lion said, approaching the incense altar himself. Looking at Lin Lu's haggard face, his heart broke. Even if you're here, you should at least take care of your health a little. Lin Lu could only silently smell the pungent scent of incense. She took out her phone and turned it on. The screen immediately filled with dozens of missed messages from Lin Ruin. At first, she wanted to ignore them, but after a quick glance at the text, she froze. They all contained the same phrase, "Come back immediately, Uncle Lin is alive." Lin Ruin was in complete shock. Dropping everything, Lin Lu frantically grabbed the car keys and ran down the monastery stairs. Her last words were, "Uncle Lin is alive, I'm going to school immediately to settle all the formalities." I soon returned to the villa. Uncle Sheng wasn't home. Instead, I was greeted by Zior, dressed in an elegant evening gown. "Young master, you're finally back. I just brought your new clothes. Come try them on quickly," Zior chirped with a smile. She was an incredibly lively and attractive girl. I was lucky that I used to work at this villa as a simple cleaner, but now everything had changed. I became the manager, and she no longer had to wait on that capricious young lady. "This is a real joy," Zior laughed heartily. I went up to my bedroom and began to look at the prepared suit. It was no easy task to please my sister, so Zior didn't even dare to say anything unnecessary. But all those people down there are real celebrities and influential figures. Besides, Miss Shen really does have everyone in awe. They're all on edge every day, especially that guy in black from downtown. But it's not like that at all. "Are we really just panicking about doing something wrong?" I asked with a smile and laughed heartily. In addition, the clothes prepared for me were neatly laid out on the bed. It was a light blue suit, sophisticatedly cut, incredibly stylish and elegant. It was exactly what my sister had ordered for me. Zior shook her head with a smile. "The designer saw your photo and was inspired. He worked overtime all night to make everything perfect. And here's the result, a suit tailored to your exact measurements. I'm afraid you'll have quite a few more guests to entertain later." Master once said that after this, I would do many more good deeds. Zior chuckled secretly at her thoughts. "In any case, this woman adores you and sincerely wants to surround you with the best." Looking at all this, I felt a little confused. There really was a whole crowd gathered at home. Fashion and jewelry designers, representatives of the world's leading luxury brands, and even an interior designer. They all fussed around me like a prince's loyal servants. I merely chuckled slightly. I was no stranger to this kind of attention. But I still felt deeply tired. Such elaborate preparations don't happen often, even when I'm in a great hurry. It's important to understand that these are top-notch professionals. They were incredibly busy, but they came here personally to serve me. Even top stars require approval to work with brands of this caliber, but I was free to do whatever I wanted with them. Looking around at the assembled group, I noticed the villa's servants hastily tidying up and organizing the rooms. Zior gently reminded me again to change. "Young master, wash up and change your clothes. The Wind Master is already arriving," Kior said, remembering Feng Xining. At the mention of this name, her face changed slightly, and her hands trembled imperceptibly. I frowned slightly in confusion. Feng Xining. The Dark Shadow 12 Ziu Liuo, that's how they were classified in order of entry. They were the very first to be included in the Holy Book. Considered one of the most dangerous. And Feng Xining ranked second on this list, holding the title of Ghost-Faced Divine Doctor. I frowned, knowing perfectly well who they were talking about. After changing, I sat in front of a large mirror and let the stylists finish their work. A young man with dark, thick hair, radiating vibrant energy, looked back at me from the mirror. Being a member of the Shao family was enough to be considered truly handsome. My gaze was deep and thoughtful. Feng Xining was nicknamed the Ghost-Faced Doctor not because she was ugly or scary. On the contrary, she possessed a dazzling beauty, yet one that oozed a dangerous, predatory ferocity. But this didn't diminish her feminine appeal in the least. Her graceful, slender figure created a deceptive impression of illness, but her icy detachment and dangerous aura made those around her subconsciously cower in fear. Knock, knock, knock. A dry, crisp knock sounded at the door. Zior immediately flinched and turned toward the entrance. A woman in an elegant, light, traditional dress stood in the doorway. Tall and refined, her flawless porcelain skin gave her a sickly charm. She had expressive phoenix eyes, upturned at the corners and adorned with bright scarlet dots and slightly pale lips. The lips themselves were a deep red, incredibly beautiful yet deadly. Zior instantly bowed deeply. Master Feng, you've arrived, Kor muttered, taking 2 steps back until her back hit the wall. Mistress won't be able to return until this evening, she added. Feng Xining merely glanced indifferently at her hands. Go downstairs, she said quietly. A moment later, everyone in the room hurried out. Only Feng Xining and I remained in the bedroom. I continued to sit on the stool, watching the guest standing by the door through the mirror. The second sister, Feng Xining, slowly approached me from behind. Her long, cool white hand rested on my shoulder, her thumb gently tracing the contours of the tattoo on my back. I remember how you were about to leave, she whispered softly. You cried so much dreaming of a bright and peaceful life, but it seems this bright life hasn't brought you any happiness, she said, her icy gaze sliding over my reflection. Yes, you're absolutely right, second sister. I sincerely believed a bright future awaited me, but I never imagined it would turn into a living hell, I replied, looking down. Feng Xining only smiled meekly and calmly. I once came to you secretly and watched you from afar at school. You know how much I respect you. You said then that you wanted to break with the past forever, and I treasured your words in my heart. Forgive me if I seem a little contradictory now. It's okay, you came back to me in the end, didn't you? She added quietly. Feng Xining frowned slightly. Your hair is really short now. Everything's different, not like before. You look like a grown, fully formed man. Her arms slid from my shoulders down my chest, gently wrapping themselves around me from behind in a protective embrace. Lin Shuo, sister will help you get out of this dirty game, okay? As long as I wish for their death, none of them will live another day unless I personally grant them the saving golden leaf. You can return and see with your own eyes how they perish one by one. I am strong enough for that. Of course, I knew perfectly well what my sister was capable of. She really could grind them into dust. These thoughts filled me with incredible sadness and pain. I told Minchun, my older sister, everything openly. I asked her to let me deal with this family myself. Feng Xining only quietly laughed at my stubbornness. Uncle Sheng is hot-tempered, but he always listened to you more than anyone else. He didn't want to see you in trouble, and I won't allow anything to harm your existence. I was simply afraid you would suffer if I stayed away, Feng Xining said with deep, almost fanatical, sisterly concern. I'm doing all this only for your own good, and in time you'll understand, she said. I felt the icy inflexibility emanating from the man standing behind me. The skin on my arms broke out in goosebumps, and I couldn't help but chuckle nervously from the stress I had experienced. Sister, let's not talk about sad things, okay? It's been so long. How are you doing in medicine? Tell me about your latest experience, I said, rising from my stool to lighten the mood. Feng Xining's smile instantly lost its dangerous edge. In my memories and dreams, I was always alone, as if standing on the edge of a deep abyss that could not accept me. She looked at me, tenderly extended her hand, and led me down with her. Leading me along, she said in a quiet, even voice, they're all dead already. I only briefly wondered who exactly she was talking about. All those who tried to separate you from your sister signed their own death warrants long ago. Feng Xining walked slowly and deliberately, as if she were reciting something incredibly important. She noticed how my fingers had gone slightly numb from the strain. She felt she'd been too blunt and had frightened me, even though she'd meant well. She was genuinely happy to be back, and I understood her feelings perfectly, even though my face had gone pale. Straightening my back, I allowed Feng Xining to lead me to the soft sofa. Just then, Zior came over to serve us fresh tea. Feng Xining was quite accustomed to such respectful treatment. She took a sip from the cup first to make sure it wasn't poisoned and only then handed it to me. Lin Shu, you're too kind, she said quietly. You're too easily deceived. These people don't wish you well. If they were truly useful to you, I wouldn't touch them. They just want to drive you out and take your place. You understand all this yourself, don't you? She asked. Of course I understand, I replied. There aren't many truly honest people in the shadow world. Those who tried to get rid of me did so for status, better resources, and to eliminate a competitor, but no one will be able to take advantage of me anymore. Feng Xining pressed a cup of hot tea into my fingers. You should drink more warm water. You haven't been feeling unwell lately, have you? You suffered too much in your youth, hence your health problems. I remember the very first time you got sick. I remember worrying all night, trying to find a way to comfort you. If only I could always be there to support you, Feng Xining recalled, and the thought struck her as almost ironic. She's a woman, how could she let her brother get upset? Should she really be feeling this bad now? It seems even Min Chun still feels a little uneasy. But I can endure all of this. Feng Zai Ning looked a little upset. She looked at me thoughtfully and seriously like a pure, calm moon in the stillness of the night. Sister will definitely cure you, she said, raising her hand and gently touching my cheek. She reassured me in the most tender voice, see, sister is here, I won't let you suffer. I just quietly held the cup and drank the hot water. The maid standing nearby literally had no face from fear. Although the Wind Lord claimed to be feeling unwell, as if she'd suffered a mild concussion, no one around her found it amusing. Everyone was terrified. For this lady, killing a human was merely a matter of premonition. The Wind Lord was completely different. Perhaps she still retained mercy for her brother, but for everyone else, any misstep could be fatal. I noticed Kier's hands trembling slightly. Quir, help me tidy up my room, I don't like clutter, I asked. Quir cringed as if she were facing some big boss. Hurry up and go away, I'm just a cowardly servant, was written in her frightened eyes. But Feng Zai Ning only chuckled softly as she looked at me. My Lin Xiu is still as kind and caring as ever. Don't worry, sister won't kill innocents, you have nothing to worry about. You used to say I was too cold to people, but sister has changed. You'll see for yourself how much I've changed, she said softly. Feng Zai Ning's warmth came as a surprise to me. I know you need time to get used to everything. It's okay, your sister will show you everything, she added. Meanwhile, Zior quickly climbed the stairs. The cook lowered her gaze, barely noticing Feng Zai Ning sitting on the sofa next to me. The maid took a sharp breath and tried to catch her breath. Upon seeing Kier, the cook immediately whispered hastily, Kier, there's no one on the first floor, everything's clear. Naturally, the servants were terrified of the Wind Lord. Zior was almost in tears with fear. The Wind Lord was the kind of person who gave those around her a maximum of 3 chances before destroying them. I saw Feng Zai Ning sitting next to me as if in the pouring rain, but her presence still couldn't warm up Kier. Hurry up and get a haircut, this is just unreasonable, I thought as I chatted leisurely with Feng Zai Ning. Suddenly Feng Zai Ning's phone rang. She smiled, running her hand through my hair. Lin Xiu, I need to go out and take care of some minor matters. Some people have completely lost their fear. My sister will be back soon, she said, and I just nodded silently. Watching Feng Zai Ning leave for the courtyard, I patted my chest in relief. I still couldn't quite figure out what was going on in my second sister's head. Taking my phone out of my pocket, I found the number I needed. It was a call from my former teammate, Song Yi. He'd been trying to contact me periodically lately, apparently having learned that I'd returned to the organization. I dialed his number. There was a long beep on the line, and only after some time did he answer. I stood up and walked into the kitchen. Zio Yi, what's been going on lately? Considering our past relationship, we probably shouldn't continue this conversation. Heh, Lin Xiu, I heard you're back. Song Yi's loud and venomous voice rang out over the phone. Forgive me, of course, but you're living like a loser. Aren't you ashamed to return to the organization? Do you even realize how much trouble you've caused us all? Song Yi's voice cut like a sharp blade. If it weren't for you, I would have lived a peaceful life. I wouldn't be haunted by a second master. It's all because of you. I remained silent, not interrupting him. Your second sister decided to deal with you personally? Song Yi asked in a strangled voice, clearly squatting somewhere. Zio Chi, the dirtiest rumors are circulating about you here. They say you abandoned the organization for some woman, and that you were ultimately thrown out like a dog, wasting half your life, Song Yi quipped. Many in the organization had previously simply envied me, but I couldn't have imagined what all this would lead to. Song Yi coughed heavily into the phone several times. His voice sounded weak and painful. Do you even know what true love is? Song Yi apparently only now remembered my second sister's anger. He couldn't help but tremble. This is all your fault. You and Bo Mingchen are to blame if you don't have a trump card. Nothing will happen though, we're just jealous, Song Yi suddenly blurted out with a nervous laugh. Song Yi smiled strangely. Why do all these powerful people revolve around you? Too many in the organization envied you, but they're simply too scared to show their faces. Don't get too proud before your time. You'll find yourself in exactly the same mess when you lose their love. Beware of rebellion. I didn't want to be rude to him in response and was just about to say a few words, but the call suddenly ended due to a connection error. I called back, but the phone was already switched off. Strange, because we had just been talking normally. Why did he hang up? I wondered. Perhaps the battery was dead, or he just didn't want to continue the conversation. Meanwhile, under the bridge, Song Yi stared in horror at the man in the black suit standing before him. Second sister said she wouldn't kill me, he screamed. Who gave you the right to mess with the young master? The bodyguard asked coldly. The man in black's voice was icy. Your entire conversation was eavesdropped on. You were constantly watched. You dared to speak ill of the young master, which means you were seeking your own death. 2 minutes later, only a single drop appeared on the surface of the water. The shore was empty. Where had the other half of his shadow disappeared to? Feng Xining calmly studied the information on her screen. She smiled coldly and with satisfaction. Hearing footsteps behind her, she took a calming breath, turned her head, and extended her hand toward me. At that moment, a doctor appeared at the door. A doctor, but I'm not sick, I was surprised. I need to know exactly how you're feeling. That's the only way I can rest easy, Feng Xining replied. I frowned. Cars began to pull into the villa's courtyard one after another. Doctors emerged from the cars, followed by the most modern and sophisticated medical equipment. The entire villa was literally cordoned off. Seeing the syringes, needles, and blood tubes, I couldn't help but shudder with disgust. Sister, I'm perfectly healthy. But Feng Xining merely took my hand firmly and tenderly. Lin Xiu is already an adult. She still remembers that moment from the past, but I don't remember it at all. I feel strange. I feel like I'm being manipulated and controlled, and I really don't like it. Feng Xining gently patted my back. Her thin bones were clearly visible. Her hands were white as bone. She leaned against my soft clothing and tried to console me. Brother, this is all for your own good. Doctors in medical masks silently went about their work. They seemed completely cold-blooded, soulless robots. I tried to pry Feng Xining's fingers free and free my hand, but her grip was like iron. I couldn't break free. Feng Xining gripped my wrist tightly. A few quiet, abrupt sounds were heard in the silence. She carefully took my hand in hers and gently blew on my reddened wrist. Forgive me, Lin Xiu, I accidentally hurt you. Meanwhile, the doctors were completely absorbed in blood transfusions and sample collection. Feng Xining was dressed in a medical gown and sterile gloves. She lifted my chin with her palm. Her cheeks grew increasingly flushed. Looking down at me, she said, Lin Xiu, open your mouth. She took the procedure so seriously that she stationed 2 assistants nearby. Seeing her seriousness, I obediently opened my mouth and felt the cold medical film on my tongue. Her gaze remained intensely focused and tender. Her thumb was just under my bottom lip. Touching this medical object made me feel slightly uneasy. I was completely unaccustomed to such close contact with people. Time passed painfully slowly and my mind was empty. I crouched awkwardly as Feng Xining spoke quietly. My teeth were fine, but my wisdom teeth were a little overgrown. Feng Xining laughed softly. It looks like it's grown up quite a bit, she told her assistant. Take a picture and let's see what happens. Next time I'll show you the results. I checked the time. It was already dark outside, around 9 o'clock in the evening. My face looked rather haggard. I sat on the sofa in light lounge clothes, hugging my knees with my arms, and watched the bustling crowd with a cold expression. Feng Xining leaned back in her chair. Listening to the doctor's report, the terminology of which I barely understood, I clenched my fists and dropped them onto the pile of papers. My sister's complexion was getting better, her gaze relaxed, and she clearly felt calmer. I just wanted silence. I stroked my stomach, feeling a slight pang of hunger. At that moment, Zhar and the other servants went up to the second floor. It seems none of them had thought to serve me food. When Uncle Shen received the news and came down, this was exactly the scene he saw. He looked incredibly handsome and stately, stern eyebrows, thin, tightly pressed lips, and a penetrating gaze brimming with inner strength. Feng Xining, what have you done here? He snapped. He approached with a heavy heart and abruptly snatched the documents from Feng Xining's hands. The medical records flew into the air, scattering across the room. Feng Xining only looked at Uncle Sheng with a smile. Fortunately, absolutely all of this information is already firmly imprinted in my memory. In this world, no one knows Lin Xiu's physical condition better than me, including him, she said calmly. Uncle Sheng merely pressed his lips together. There was no point in holding back her anger in such a situation. Feng Xining only laughed softly. Stand up, put down your instruments, you're free to go, she ordered. The doctors quickly gathered their things, and within 10 minutes there was no trace left. Feng Xining was in a great mood. She looked down at the sofa where I was already falling asleep from exhaustion. Lin Xiu is hungry. Sorry, brother, I was so engrossed in my work that I completely lost track of time. Uncle Sheng immediately ordered the servants to serve dinner in a stern tone. It was past 9 o'clock. Recalling Feng Ning's methods, he personally poured me water and made sure I was fed. Uncle Sheng smiled coldly and distantly, not hiding his displeasure. "You've had enough, leave early," he snapped. Feng Ning retorted, "I can leave, but only with my brother." Uncle Shen didn't even listen to this. Feng Ning stood up straight like a beautiful phoenix. A deep shadow lingered in her eyes. I shifted my gaze from Uncle Sheng to Feng Ning. Raising my voice, I asked, "Tell me, are the other brothers and sisters not coming today?" "There's no news at the moment, so they're unlikely to show up today. They'll be arriving one by one, but later," Uncle Sheng replied. Uncle Sheng snatched the expensive watch from his wrist and threw it on the tea table in irritation. "Lin Shuo, you shouldn't go hungry after dinner," Feng Ning said softly. I knew Uncle Sheng had his own reasons for being angry, but I couldn't care less. I washed my hands, changed into a clean white suit, and sat down at the dining table. In his interactions with others, Uncle Sheng always remained a cool and reserved gentleman, concealing his anger, and his thin back seemed incredibly straight. He also enjoyed reading medical books, though he wasn't an expert. I sincerely believed he was a man who had been used to relying only on himself his entire life. Leah and Zaire hurried over to help with the table setting. I warned them that I would be staying in this house temporarily and then went up to my room. Only the two of them remained at the huge table. Uncle Sheng's gaze was sharp and penetrating. "Did you come here just to torment Lin Shuo? You know very well how I feel about him. I would never harm him, but you, Uncle Sheng, are simply ungrateful," Feng Ning replied. A dangerous, dark light gleamed in the beauty's deep eyes. "You've grown so tall, but you haven't gained any intelligence. What's all this for?" Feng Ning leaned against the table. She tapped her fingers twice on the tabletop and sighed heavily. Uncle Sheng had never dared touch her before. Her eyes narrowed slightly and a dangerous smile played on her lips while Uncle Sheng remained icy. I understood perfectly well what he meant. Whatever my past misfortunes, Uncle Sheng didn't care. For him, I remained his only precious treasure. Any attempt to take me away would only complicate matters. Feng Ning muttered, "If necessary, I'll lock him up and cut his offenders into pieces one by one." Such ancient and brutal methods of dealing with enemies required a special kind of endurance. She raised her hand and looked at her clean, pale fingers. Her skin was incredibly fair and her hands seemed immaculately clean. I was sure she would stand her ground to the very end. My sister's fanatical, insane loyalty knew no bounds. And even such a harsh lesson seemed insufficient to her. On the other hand, poor Zaire. Trembling with fear like an aspen leaf, she completely lost her composure. Setting the deep bowl down on the table, she tried not to look up. The only person harmed in this situation was Zaire. She quickly retreated, bending her back, and fled to the kitchen. In the kitchen, Li was completely confused, and sweat was pouring down her forehead. "What happened to you?" Li asked, frightened. "Nothing," Zaire muttered. She had clearly suffered severe psychological trauma. Zaire leaned helplessly against the wall. "Go and serve the next dishes yourself." But Li only shook her head in fear. "I wouldn't dare, Zaire. Maybe we should go get some fresh air," Li exhaled. Li was terrified of those two terrible demons sitting in the dining room. "Perhaps we should wait until the young master comes downstairs before we wash the dishes," Leah suggested. Zaire nodded in agreement. "You have a point," she whispered as footsteps sounded outside. Knock, knock, knock. When I came downstairs, I was wearing comfortable lounge clothes. Holding my old phone in my hand, I skimmed through the messages on WeChat. Most of them were from members of the Lin family. I sat quietly at the dining table. Feeling the atmosphere between the people present had become much more harmonious than before, I silently put my phone down. "Sister, are you hungry too? Hurry up and eat. Why did you eat so poorly while you were with the Lin family?" Feng Ning said matter-of-factly, "Bring me some soup. Poor nutrition and stomach aches are no joke. They can't be ignored. Sister will take good care of you." Uncle Sheng merely frowned in displeasure. "So you're still trying to patronize him?" Uncle Shen muttered, but Feng Ning and Ming Chun only looked at each other with restraint. "Please have a little patience, I won't push you any further," she said softly. At that moment, Zaire and Leah hurried over and began serving hot dishes. The maids barely finished setting the plates before they hurried away. Silence reigned in the villa once again. At least there was no one else in my line of sight. I leisurely sipped my soup while the sisters quietly discussed the affairs of our organization. These were security questions, so I chose not to interfere in the conversation and returned to WeChat on my phone. I noticed Chin Lion's profile picture pop up in the chat list. He'd sent out a group message to everyone. How wonderful. Jin Zioquan is lucky. He has a wonderful way of expressing himself. I was personally invited to the birthday party and I'm absolutely over the moon. Birthday going all out. Aren't you ashamed of being so popular? Looks like the Lin family still thinks they're the center of the universe, I thought, even though I had absolutely nothing to do with it. I wasn't heartless at all. Using my authority as CEO of Yaoming Group, I ordered my subordinates to throw me a grand birthday party the following day. Lin Shuo, why are you suddenly upset? My sister asked. Feng Xining looked at me intently and I felt a whole range of emotions wash over me. I just chuckled slightly. No, it's fine. I'm throwing my birthday party tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I announced. Feng Xining turned her gaze to me. At first, a slight sadness crossed her face, but by the end of my words, she smiled softly. Good, I'll be looking forward to your celebration. She slowly stirred the hot soup in her bowl with a spoon. It would be simply wonderful to wipe the floor with all those who still haven't opened their eyes to the truth. What gift does my Lin Shuo want? She asked with a smile, the warm, sisterly love in her eyes ready to burst forth. Absolutely anything will do, I replied. Official invitation letters were also already in the process of being prepared. I'll personally arrange everything. The entire town will gather to witness this event and no one will dare disrespect you, my sister assured passionately. I looked at the sisters with gratitude. My heart felt incredibly warm. They didn't even ask me why, they were simply ready to be my most reliable support. It's wonderful that I've made my decision. You can come, but your status is too specific. Won't it attract unnecessary attention if you constantly hang around? Uncle Shen said. A light breeze blew through the window and my sister gently touched my cheek. Sister has never been afraid to attract attention to herself. Feng Xining snapped as Uncle Sheng closely watched her every move. The man in the black suit only tightened his grip on his chopsticks. Meanwhile, in the Lin family's home, Lin Zio's mother was already sending out holiday invitations, beaming with happiness. What's she so happy about? Everyone wondered. Mom, the Five Lakes Hotel is the most luxurious in town. This time you've done a fantastic job, Lin Zio exulted. Chin Lion added, your birthday party will be amazing. Of course, it will be a grand opening which will bring our family a great deal of pride. And most importantly, things haven't been going well at home lately, so your father decided to use this occasion to gather his old, influential friends, Mom replied. But we're still playing a leading role at the upcoming school festival. I've already made arrangements with the venue's organizers. See how many people have already sent their congratulations. Everyone says you're a great guy. I guarantee you incredible success and brilliance. I'll invite even more people and I'll make all your envious people kick their heels, she boasted. Lin Zio was overjoyed. The atmosphere at home had been too oppressive lately and he hadn't felt such joy for a long time. Mommy, you really love me more than anyone in the world. Meanwhile, Feng Xining and Uncle Sheng. As comrades from the shadow world, they certainly presented a united front for the success of my cause, at least in my presence. They displayed complete harmony, though deep down, each of them pursued their own goals. That night when I went to bed, there was an invisible tension in the silence of the room. I held my phone and scrolled through the latest news, then drifted off peacefully to sleep. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. Waking up right on schedule, I noticed Zara was already waiting for me at the door. Hearing my voice, she knocked quietly and entered the room. Young master. The Wind Lord ordered a restorative tonic to be prepared for you. I'll bring it right away if that's all right, she asked. I'd sweated a little overnight. Thank you, Zara, I said softly. It's not difficult at all. Serving capricious masters is a truly difficult life, but looking after you is a pleasure, the maid replied. I got up to change and went to wash up. As I was leaving the bathroom, I saw Feng Xining sitting on a stool. She held a large, new book in her hands, slowly leafing through it. Lin Shuo has been accepted to a great university. Believe in your university life, it's bound to be rich and vibrant, she said. Looking at my pale skin in the mirror, I felt the cool morning breeze. I, too, am very much looking forward to my student days. Last time, I never got to study properly at college. It only lasted a couple of months due to constant filming, and many people later made fun of my academic level. When I was in Hong Kong, I was already a famous star, having graduated from High School A, the best high school in the province, ranked in the top 10 nationally. Adjusting my pillow, I sat down on the bed. Looking at the photographs in the university directory, I firmly resolved to truly cherish all 4 years of my upcoming studies. A gentle breeze blew outside the window. I couldn't help but raise my eyebrows at the pleasant thoughts when Zaire suddenly brought in a healing decoction. Thick, hot soup steamed in a deep white bowl, filling the room with a sharp, rich, bitter aroma. "Young master, the Wind Lord is already on his way," Zaire whispered. "It looks terribly bitter," I muttered. I wrinkled my nose slightly. "What kind of medicine is this?" Feng Ning took the bowl from the maid's hands and gently stirred the decoction with a spoon. "You have an unhealthy complexion and a weak constitution, and traditional Chinese medicine is excellent for restoring your strength," she explained. Feng Ning couldn't even imagine how many such concoctions I'd drunk since childhood. A skilled physician who had studied hundreds of ancient tomes, she had achieved incredible heights in medicine. Taking a spoon, she first took a small sip of the medicine herself. Looking at her, I smiled. My sister still maintained this old habit. Before serving me any food or drink, she always tasted it first. I gently placed my palm on Feng Ning's hand. "Sister," I said quietly, but Feng Ning had long been accustomed to such precautions. Even though we were in Uncle Sheng's house where there was unlikely to be any danger, she still preferred to exercise caution. Feng Ning still clearly remembered the day her brother turned 10. "His enemy slipped me poison. I used to be in good health, otherwise I simply wouldn't have survived the orphanage. But that incident severely undermined my health, all because of her carelessness back then." Feng Ning caught her breath at the memory. "There were many unpleasant and difficult moments in the past. Lin Shuo doesn't have to become a brutal killer. I will protect Lin Shuo at any cost. I will forever remain in his debt, and he doesn't have to become a master of the underworld. At least while she's around, no one will ever hurt me enough to turn me into a helpless cripple again. No." "Sister, why do you keep thinking about the past?" I asked quietly, bowing my head and gently pressing my hand against her shoulder. "We all have our difficulties. Things didn't go as you'd hoped, but I recovered long ago. I'm perfectly fine now." At that moment, Zior watched us silently. The shadow world conceals too much filth and cruelty, but this scene seemed incredibly warm and beautiful. Zior continued to secure the tray, and Li, looking at her, couldn't help but smile. "Aren't you afraid they'll make us serve all this? What are you laughing so happily about?" Li whispered, surprised.